Bases dropped on a wall pass Wednesday, and when we've got a two-shot off the top, that means that somebody's busy and they've got to get to, like, actual work instead of talking to people like me. So that's why we brought Lucas in off the top. Lucas Panzica, radio play-by-play voice for Nashville SC, talking everyone in. Hashtag everyone in. Lucas, good morning. Welcome back.
Morning, John. You assume that where I'm headed is actual work. None of this is really actual work for any of us, I don't think.
Point taken. Yes, absolutely true. But what I wanted to do in our cavalcade of all-stars and the golden ticket holders is bring everybody in beginning of the season to talk about their teams, talk about stuff. We had Glenn Davis on yesterday, and we talked about Houston in the Western Conference. So now it's your turn to talk about what's going on. A couple of different paths that right now Gary Smith and the club are having to pursue: the regular season, the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. So what's the offseason been like up there?
Yeah, getting ready for what will definitely be, you imagine, the most games, at least if things go well, the most games in Nashville SC's short MLS history. So, I mean, right out the gate, right? It's 3 or so months of an offseason, and it's 3 games in about 7 days with your 2 CONCACAF Champions Cup ties and then the opener against New York Red Bulls. So, same core, right? You know, any Atlanta United fans that are used to watching Nashville a couple times a season, we'll see a lot of those same familiar faces up and down the spine: the Hani Mukhtars, the Walker Zimmermans, the Dan Lovitzes. But just sort of tweaking things here and there. Fafa Pico out, Tyler Boyd in. Kind of a younger version of what Pico can do, can create on the wing, can score, can swing in crosses. So apart from that, it's really, I think, all circling around what does Nashville get out of Sam Surridge with the full preseason under his belt, right? Where he was thrown into the fire last year, coming off the back of Nottingham Forest's second half of the season, straight into Leagues Cup, great debut, goes on a great run, picks up an injury in Atlanta down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then just isn't quite himself for the rest of the way. He's 100%. The whole team is in a great place health-wise, so they're in a good spot to start off this stretch run. But, yeah, there's no doubt that Nashville will finish the season probably having played in the neighborhood of 45 or so games. Again, that's assuming things go well and they get off to a good start in this competition.
And you mentioned Sam Surridge, and I know that he has been the focal point of a lot of conversations, both good, bad, and intriguing. And it made you wonder, I guess, at points, was the Premier League season and not getting a break, kind of like what we saw down here with Yorgos Giakoumakis when he comes in and you're still going, and then once you think your season's over, it's not, and then you're still going. Was fatigue a factor in any of this, or was it orientation? What do you think it was that when it came to Sam Surridge were all of the things that handcuffed him last season?
I'd say fatigue was a factor for the team as a whole post-Leagues Cup for sure. I mean, there's no denying there was a hangover there for a couple of weeks after losing that final to Miami. In terms of Surridge, it's hard to say because he picked up that knock, he picked up that injury in Atlanta, and then he wasn't really the same after that for the rest of the way, apart from, a brace against New England Revolution near the end of the regular season, kind of popped up in that moment. And otherwise, so yeah, maybe it was a factor, but really the only thing you could look at as a primary reason for Surridge dropping off as far as production post-Leagues Cup was that injury that he picked up and just never really got to fully get over it, despite the fact that Nashville had kind of a 2-week break sandwiched in there in that back stretch of the regular season. So that, I think, is the biggest thing because as you said, he's the focal point. Nashville has been trying to get that spot right really since they came into MLS, that number 9 spot, with whether it was Yonder Cadiz or the deal for Ake Loba or, with Cadiz, it worked in moments. With Daniel Rios, he'd pop up here and there. With Loba, obviously, that did not work at all for Nashville. And so here's Sam Surridge, who has certainly had the most promising start in that regard. So here, let's see what he can do with an actual preseason under his belt. And in a way, it almost feels like a new signing, right? Because you're getting kind of a fresh 100% version of Sam Surridge that's fully integrated now to the team.
So let's deal with extremes here. From 180 degrees, good and bad. What is it when it comes to your look at Nashville that you are least concerned about going into this season with all the multiple competitions at the same time? And then what are you most concerned about when it comes to Nashville with all these multiple competitions going on at the same time?
Well, least concerned about the floor defensively. I mean, it's just kind of rinse and repeat, right, with Gary Smith and Nashville. Look, Nashville was already extremely deep at center back, for instance, and they went ahead and made another signing in Brett Kallman, an experienced guy in this league. All those games over the years with Minnesota. They bring in Julian Gaines, the younger brother of Mackenzie Gaines, that can play on the wing, that can play fullback. So Nashville has replenished their depth on the back line. And they come in with a very strong group, especially as it pertains to the center back position. So feel great about that, as we typically do in this, under Gary Smith in this tenure. But I will say, beyond Sam Surridge up top, if Nashville gets into a situation where he picks up a knock again, or they're rotating there, really Nashville's only other option right now with that number 9 role is Teal Bunbury. Now, Teal Bunbury plays a role for this team. Teal Bunbury holds the ball up. He's very good in the air, but obviously he doesn't find the back of the net with the regularity that he did for a stretch in his career with New England. He certainly has come up in big moments for Nashville over the last couple of years. But as far as a consistent poaching goal-scoring option with the number 9 role, I think that there's a bit of a drop-off there if Sam Surridge is unavailable. So we'll see how that plays out in the first half of the season, if that's something Nashville addresses with the summer window. But again, Nashville had that issue through stretches of last year. CJ Sapong, just hit that drought, and that drought continued until he was traded to Toronto. Hani Mukhtar picked up all the scoring slack, and Nashville played some of its best soccer, had its best run last year without getting a whole lot from that number 9 position because of the form Hani Mukhtar was in. So certainly there are ways to kind of supplement around that, but I'd say that's probably the primary concern right now, which hopefully for Nashville won't be one if Surridge is fit and is performing.
Who is the most, in your mind, most underrated or underappreciated player when it comes to what Nashville does on a match-by-match basis? Who is flying below the radar that folks need to focus on? That might end up being a 2-part question. So when it comes to all of these different elements with Nashville, who's flying below the radar folks need to pay attention to? Who's the most underrated or underappreciated player on that roster right now?
That's a good question. Flying under the radar, I think when you're talking about around the league and how he's perceived, is a guy like Jacob Schaffelberg, just the threat that he brings, especially coming off the bench, just that pace against tired legs has made such a huge difference for Nashville. Now, the thing with Schaffelberg, I think, will be consistency. Got off to a red-hot start last season. I mean, had a pair of goals in the first 3 or so games, chipped in some assists, was a threat on the flank opposite Fafa Pico. And then the production level kind of dropped off a bit for Jacob Schaffelberg. But as far as underrated, people around the league that may not know his name, I'd say Schaffelberg, a guy who I think will continue to kind of rise within the Canadian national team as well. Underappreciated, it's a good question, because I think that's pretty balanced out with this Nashville team. I think a guy like Teal Bunbury, because he's a number 9, and when you look at that position, you expect goals, right? And that's certainly something that Teal needs to add more of. But there is a reason Teal Bunbury continues to play for this team, because he plays a role. He does a lot of things that helps the players around him in the final third. The missing piece for him, obviously, is the most important, and that's consistent goal scoring, which you don't quite get from Teal Bunbury. But I would just put him in that category simply for the fact of it's very easy to look at him and say, okay, you're talking about 4 goals a season for a striker. It's just not good enough. And it's not, but there's a lot of things that Teal Bunbury does that is a big reason why he's on the field, the presence he brings physically with the hold-up play, and I mentioned the aerial ability that Gary Smith's not trotting him out there for no reason. So I think I'd put him there, and we'll see how Drew Yearwood comes along in that regard, just as someone that can be a ball progressor for Nashville that they haven't quite had. He's not necessarily a Dax McCarty. Dax out. They didn't bring in Drew Yearwood to be that number 6, just spraying balls all over the place. But he is someone that can dribble through pressure and break lines in that way. So I'll be interested to see kind of the snapshot of Gary Smith's idea of how Drew Yearwood fits in right out the gate. And don't be surprised to see Yearwood playing a little higher up the field as an option if Hani Mukhtar has to step off, or Hani Mukhtar is rotated out. Randall Leal is a little banged up right now from his time with the Costa Rican national team. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize Yearwood for sure.
No doubt, especially with his time that we're used to seeing him as a part of the Red Bullsian system and what he did there,
Yep.
now having to adjust what Gary wants him to do there in Nashville. Another couple of minutes here with Lucas Panzica, radio play-by-play voice for Nashville, and obviously golden ticket holder here for the show. And so when it comes to the Eastern Conference, and right now I know, and since today is happy MLS season kickoff day with Messi and friends and RSL, and we'll get into that discussion later on when it comes specifically to Messi and friends again for like the 90th day in a row. There is news. When it comes to the Eastern Conference and Nashville's place in it, where do you see them right now when it comes to playoff spots, positioning? Where do you have them right now penciled in as we start these matches?
Right now, again, when you're talking about Nashville as a team that has, I think, set a floor, right? So I'm going to keep with that floor, which is playoff team. And I know in today's MLS that can be a frustrating point for fans, right? You finish in the top 9 and hey, good job everybody. We made the playoffs, a successful season. I don't think Nashville wants to be that. I don't think Nashville wants to be content with a play-in game with that 8 or 9 seed in the Eastern Conference. But right now, I would place Nashville firmly as a team that can be in the playoffs, that has a catalyst like Hani Mukhtar, that has a spine and a backbone that, again, just lifts their floor in terms of what they can prevent teams from doing. The question for Nashville this season will be, what does it look like when they are invited to break teams down? That's where the struggles came late last season, and we'll get a good picture of that when they go down to Mocha in the Dominican Republic, and they'll be the ones invited to break Mocha down to create those advantageous situations. And that's kind of what Nashville had to do in the preseason as well against teams like Birmingham and Memphis. So that's the big question for me, because that is what will raise the ceiling for this team. If they show they can play with the ball, that they can break down a low block with consistency, then I'm starting to put Nashville higher and higher when you talk about the goal of finishing top 5 in the East, maybe even the goal of hosting a playoff game, which is a conversation Nashville is firmly in until the last 5 or so weeks of the regular season last year. And look, as you know, it's an incredibly strong Eastern Conference. It's absolutely loaded. So that's going to be a tough task. But I'd be confident in saying Nashville fully expects to be firmly in the playoffs, and not as that sneak in as a 9 seed type of team, kind of a no doubt element to it throughout the course of the season, and then seeing what they can achieve from there.
All right, cut a promo for me. Tell me what I can do to listen to the man when it comes to everything going on up there in Nashville.
Well, so some good Apple TV content coming out on Nashville SC's team page, I believe today, that will hit, that we've been working on. And obviously the season opener on Sunday. So most of the games happening on Saturday. Nashville, for the second straight year, will open up against a New York team. This time, New York Red Bulls. Last year, John, it was NYCFC, who, when we came into the season, we knew nothing about. We were saying, what have they done this offseason? Who are these players? Not quite the same when you talk about New York Red Bulls, right? As far as knowing what you're going to get. So Red Bulls comes in to Geodis Park. Personally, just on a personal level, I can't wait to watch Emil Forsberg play. Just watching him over the last few years in Europe and the impact he's made with the Swedish national team. That was I thought, a fantastic signing by them, and we'll look forward to seeing him debut in MLS on Sunday. But yeah, we'll have that kickoff at 4 p.m. obviously on Apple TV with the option to listen to the home radio broadcast.
And that's what we recommend, is the home radio broadcast.
Of course.
When it comes to our buddy Lucas Panzica. Lucas, is always great to catch up with you once again before the season starts and all this kind of stuff. And anytime you want to crash before you actually head into actual work, you can do it here at SDH. Thanks a lot, my friend. Be good, stay warm, and we'll catch up probably sooner than later. Trust me.
Appreciate it, John. Look forward to listening to Mike Conti and co. This weekend while watching on Apple as well.
No doubt. Be good, Lucas.
You too. See ya.
All right, that's Lucas Panzica, and he is integral to our coverage when it comes to our friends up there in Nashville. And it's been great to be able to kind of pick Lucas's brain every once in a while when it comes to what's going on with Nashville. Now, we do the hot tag. And this is what happens when you've got opening day. It is opening day here. Happy CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza Day for those of you who celebrate. And now we bring in another one of our guest list, and we're going to start something here. So now on Wednesdays, we bring in Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves from Scarves and Spikes.
Howdy.
Big salute. And thanks for coming to Crash the Party officially on Wednesdays now before the week gets downhill and we have to start really paying attention to matches on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And your accent, it shook me. I wasn't looking. And I was like, what just turned on? What just turned on over here? That was spot on. I liked it.
Well, call it prolonged overexposure when it comes to when it comes to Gary. But now, when you're talking about Gary Smith and what's going on in Nashville, it's always good to catch up with our buddy Lucas. But now we're shifting back this way, closer than the 4-hour drive it is from SDHHQ to talk about Atlanta United. And I know that when Maddie has questions, she's just going to crash the party because she's got that kind of power because it's Maddie Cruz and the ones and twos. And literally all she has to do now is hit a button. And she basically can be like the Kool-Aid, like the Kool-Aid man, just kind of
bust through the wall.
Basically just bust through the wall. And she can do that now. So when Maddie has questions for you, she's just going to barge right in and go with your thoughts. But from 30,000 feet, Tyler, as we get ready for the season from an Atlanta United perspective, what does the offseason look like for you heading into this 2024 season with folks who are coming in and additions and folks who finally get a full preseason? From 30,000 feet, what's your view as we head in here?
I think the overarching sort of view is simply that the front office has filled in the holes that Atlanta had last season and seasons prior. It's been the defense. Atlanta, we know it's been beat to death. Atlanta has one of the best attacks in the league, but they leaked goals last year wildly.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going into the Columbus match this weekend, right? And you're looking at something like 23 goals between the two teams when they played each other in all competitions last season. So goals aren't the problem. It was giving up the goals. So you have Bartosz Slish come in. And that was my biggest kicker last year, was bringing in a guy that can be that first line of defense in front of the center backs, because you know the center backs got a lot of hate last year, but they can't be the only ones defending, right? Goalkeepers, Brad Guzan getting his share of hate last year, but it starts way ahead of them, and many times they were left out to dry. So you bring in a guy, a Polish international, who he has the experience. He's young, but he has experience. He's a solid player. And then, of course, you bring in Dax McCarty, so another proven MLS player. You just talking about Nashville. And then, of course, the goalkeeper core, who's going to start this weekend, I have no idea. I personally this is my opinion, my 2 cents. I think it's going to be Cohen, but I would not at all be surprised if Brad hangs on to that starting spot. So from 30,000 feet, it was the defense. It was filling in the holes. It was bringing in what we think on paper, the right guys. My hot take in the offseason was this is probably the best on paper starting 11 and depth that Atlanta United has ever had.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Maddie, batting leadoff for your lead question for Tyler Pilgrim. What's on your mind?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, Tyler, I don't think that's a hot take. So I completely agree with you. I
appreciate that.
I think it is one of the strongest 11 that we've had, I think, since the inaugural season and since the MLS Cup. I think since then it's been like that decline, and like we're finally seeing like just the talent that is going to be on the field is going to be so much fun to watch. But with that being said, obviously it's the start of the MLS season. I mean, expectations going into Columbus, it's the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year. What are your expectations for that match, and what do you want to see from the side?
So in MLS, it's hard to go into an away match and say you should win that, right? We always hear it. We hear the ideas of
2 out of 7, I think it was last year. Like,
yeah, 22%. Right. But they were so close on so many away matches, right? They just dropped points at the last second. But I think expectations for Columbus, it's easy to give they need to go up and win answer, because you do, but that's not MLS. Atlanta United is well aware that they have to go and fix their away record to be serious contenders for, if they're shooting for Supporter Shield. I mean, they want trophies, right? And they're going to take whatever trophy they can get. So I want to see fight, and I want to see points whether that's a win or a draw. You don't play for the draw, but you can't start the season off with a loss unless you're 2018 and you get destroyed in Houston 5-0. But
we blocked that out, Tyler.
yeah. We'll push that one aside. But yeah, I want to see that the team is a cohesive unit. I want to see the identity, and I want to see them, like Columbus, play their style of game regardless of the pressure that Columbus is going to put on them. Because I think if they can do it against Columbus, they can do it against any team in the league.
When and obviously we have an ongoing conversation with our friends in the Twitch pitch, and I will pose this question to you from one of our A-listers, Ropes, resident Evertonian and Everton fan. How do you feel about the 3-1 loss to Sporting in the preseason? My answer, Ropes, before Tyler, let me get your answer, but my answer, Ropes, is this: 2 of the goals were from the penalty spot. We don't know context because, unlike Toronto and Columbus, when they had a match, basically it was very Orwellian of them to sit there and say, no, we're just not going to say anything about it. It's like the match didn't even happen. No stats, no numbers, no nothing, which I thought was one of the most bogus things I've seen in quite some time with Toronto and Columbus. We were there. Literally, it's almost like Gilbert Gottfried and Beverly Hills Cop with the ticket. It's like you got something over here, and then you look on your other hand, and then you kind of sit there, and it's like, oh, what's over here? Then you focus on the other, and then this is like, what is this? I don't know what this is. Literally,
that's never happened.
That's exactly. It's like Toronto and Columbus. That's exactly what it was for me. The 3-1 loss to Sporting. Once again, the biggest element in all of this, Tyler, is that we don't have any context because none of us were at Chase Stadium now, since DRVP&K has surrendered their sponsorship ability. So none of us were there. We don't know what happened. All we know is literally 2 from the spot in the second half. We don't know what the lineups were. We don't know what the first 45 was. We don't know what the changes were. We don't know what the situation is or any context. It's like, honestly, Ropes, I will say this. Ropes, what do I think about the 3-1 loss to Sporting Kansas City in the preseason? You've got the line. Basically, that's it. It was a 3-1 loss to Sporting Kansas City in preseason. That's it, because we don't know what we don't know when it came to that particular match.
I can give you a little bit more context just from our quick chat with Pineda yesterday. He came over and he was talking about the new kit, the Resurgence kit. And we were just kind of chatting with him for a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, it's ridiculous. I understand, I think, to a degree, why teams do these closed matches and all, but it was kind of odd that you're getting updates, like random updates across Twitter from random accounts. And it's like, I thought this thing was completely closed.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do I think? First of all, I always have to go back and yell in my head that it's preseason, because there's things that we don't know. There's always going to be aspects of, like you said, the starting lineup and whatever else may have happened throughout the week that we don't know. But to give context to it, Pineda said that the week from the Tampa Bay match up to this SKC match, they increased the physicality and the workload and the training sessions and everything else, essentially 50% over what they were at this point last year. And if you follow the progression since Pineda's been here, he really leans into that sports science department. And in the beginning of 2023, he really, really pushed the guys even further than he did in 2022 and mentioned it in one of his first press conferences. We talked about it yesterday and pointed out that at this point last year, the second groups that he had in like his second 11s that were coming in, they were essentially playing 150 minutes at a time at this point last year. And now they're up to 225. So he said by the 60th minute or so, they were gassed. And that's what he wanted. He wanted them to be, to a degree, come opening day where they're ready for a full 90 and beyond. And he's leaning into his sports science department to make sure that those guys are where they need to be, fitness wise, everything else. Caleb was one that didn't get a full 90 just because he's on his way back, but he did say that he should be set. He should be ready to go. But around the 60th, 70th minute, SKC brought in a bunch of young guys, fresh legs, totally opposite viewpoint from what Pineda is trying to do with his squad. So that's where you have that factor of this is not an equal match. You can't take a ton out of it. If you've got, it doesn't matter. I mean, the talent matters, but the talent doesn't matter as much if you have somebody that's literally got fresh legs, that's just warmed up and they're ready to go against people that have literally been running, miles and miles and miles in
And a
training
young kid
sessions.
that wants to prove himself in an MLS environment.
Yeah, which is also how injuries happen. Thankfully,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't happen. But yeah, I just think it's worth having that context, because it's easy to say, 3-1 right before the season opens, and that sucks. But I don't get the vibe, and it didn't seem like Pineda had the vibe that they were concerned about it at all.
Maddie, for Tyler, go.
Ooh, well, I mean, you kind of mentioned it in that last question, but I mean, let's talk about the new kit, because I mean, it's gorgeous and I want one, but it's a little expensive out of my price range as a college student. So I gotta kind of wait until it goes on sale for me. But what are your thoughts on it? And have you already bought one?
So, all right. So I haven't put it up yet. I was going to do my thank you post because I genuinely I'm super grateful. So Atlanta sent one. I don't know if anybody watches my Instagram, but they sent this lighter.
Yeah. What is the lighter, man?
Ooh.
This lighter is like a lightsaber. So it's an electronic lighter.
Okay.
All right. And then it's got this little button, which I didn't know existed, by the way. So I flipped the top on it and it turned on. But it's like this little like electricity arcing thing.
Oh, wow.
So that was like, I was tripping. I was tripping over this all last night, but
here he goes. Here it is.
My flex, I guess. No, I'm super grateful.
First time on the show, and he flashes the Resurgence kit. I get it. There it is.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
There it is.
Everybody has their opinion about kits, right? Since this one was it was leaked, quote unquote leaked.
Yeah, when Clint Capella
and
Bogey Bogdanovich are walking down the aisle, and the Hawks media and the Hawks social media team, they're taking pictures of the players walking in, and everybody's like, wait a second.
That was convenient.
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The Hawks releasing the Atlanta United new kit was not something I had on a bingo card.
Nope, not even a little bit. But I've liked it since I saw it because I think it's clean. I think it's not overdone. I mean, there's always going to be little picky aspects that I could be like, oh, I wish that was maybe a little different. Like the Phoenix, I wish there was a little more like, I guess, contrast with the blue. But I like it overall. I like the lettering on the back.
Okay, so Abby wants to see the back. So there you go. There's the back.
Yep.
Double blue. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I like what it stands for. I like what it means. I've lived in Atlanta my entire life. So
you're a kid of the South Side too, just like Jason.
Yeah. Same high school, actually, which is wild to me.
Wow.
Yep.
Two Eagles landing dudes in one soccer covering universe.
It's like a Marvel story, I think, in a way.
So is that going into a frame, or is that going actually to be a part of the wardrobe? See, that's the big question.
It'll be part of the wardrobe.
Okay.
It'll be part of the wardrobe. I've got, we do our show and I try to swap every week as much as I can. And now I've got a third option.
Okay. Now I see how this plays. I know how this works. When it comes to the new additions that were brought in here in the offseason, you mentioned Bart Sleesh, and you've also got Stian Gregerson, who is now a part of the discussion at the back. And when you've got someone who is a tall drink of water, who you can have on set pieces that can drive folks crazy and be that commanding presence at the back as one of your center backs, everybody was looking at addressing needs. You mentioned Josh between the sticks, having that experienced 1 or 1A, however you want to phrase it, 1-2, 1-1A, multiple competitions. You're going to need them both anyway. You bring in a Gregerson, and you bring in a Bart Sleesh. Once again, Atlanta United, Carlos Bocanegra in the front office, they are finding those places with the distressed assets. And that's what we've always tried to maintain here is go to places where your analytics says, okay, this is the kind of guy that you need, but go to those places that are really in financial need where you can strike a deal. And the two guys you bring in Sleesh and Gregerson, you totaled $6 million, and you brought in two folks that can help you. So the analytics, the math, and the searching really seemed to work out well in the offseason.
Yeah, and it's a stark contrast too to the previous seasons before, right? Like we're not in the front office, and we can act like we're playing Football Manager all day,
Mhm.
which is fun. But I think you're now looking at a vision by Garth Lagerway, and we can have the Bocanegra discussion, but Bocanegra he's gone out and found talent. You can't deny that. Now, whether it was the right time to bring in that talent, that's absolutely up for discussion. But I think now you have a partnership that's really, really working, and they've hit a gold mine in League Two. in
Yeah,
France.
I mean, you get Muyumba, you bring him in, and he has turned into an absolute crowd favorite out of the blocks. He's got wanderlust about him, and he'll be at one end, and then he'll be at the other end, offense, defense. He'll run from one end to the other without any
Everywhere.
and then you bring in Jamal, you bring in Shonde Silva, and as long as you've got a Spidey mask nearby, then I think
Yeah.
you're okay when it comes to that. But yeah, it's you find these. It's not where you're running into all of these locations and trying to find. It's like, yeah, we'll pay like $11 billion for this dude. You're going to these locations, and League Deux seems to be. This is where Atlanta United, I think, has always done well. They have zigged when everybody else zagged. Everybody,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's go to South America. Everybody goes to South America. Okay, where do we go now? All right, let's go to Europe and find distressed assets and clubs that need it. And it just so happened that League Deux fit your analytics this time, and you're bringing in a lot of different folks from there.
My favorite, I think, quote from Stian, again, League Two guy, right? We've seen him in some capacity. He has the couple of matches in preseason, but they were trying not to overwork him, considering he was essentially in the middle of the season when he came over. But I think when people look at on the surface anyway, at face value, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, that's coming from a second tier side in another country, whatever." Second tier sides in other countries, I don't know. I don't think I'm the first to say this, but they're not bad leagues. You have some genuinely awesome talent in plenty, even third tier, fourth tier in some places. But Stian Gregerson specifically, he said yesterday, and we laughed like out loud when he said this, because it was, I think people kind of come to the realization that he's played against guys like Erling Haaland and Mbappe, and it was brought up about his speed, because that's been one of his things that he's kind of blasted the most, his 1v1 defending and his speed. And I forget the exact question, but he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm not worried about my speed at all. I've gone up against Haaland and Mbappe." And we were like, okay, hopefully this, if anybody's on the fence about Stian, they hear something like that and they can say, okay, well, that's respectable at minimum.
So yeah, no fear with dealing with folks, and
Yeah.
that's in the European theater. When you have no fear in dealing with folks, that's always a good thing. It's like, yeah, Mbappe, I get him, and the fact, and you're staring at him too, because you got two Sequoias in the back in that situation anyway, where it's just like, no worries, I got this. It's all cool. And that also you mentioned Gregerson's speed, to have that, for lack of a better phrase, that lockdown free safety that you can have, like the Ed Reed type, like we had with Miles, where literally it's like you have no concern about the receiver going deep over the middle, because you know that free safety is going to be there, and you're not going to have any problem knocking the pass down, and they're going to have to start over with their offense. And so I think that this is something also to look forward to, where Sleeshy's going to help out, let Muyumba roam, which is something we saw last year. And Gregerson at the back, who's like, yeah, okay, let's bring it. Fine. I'm going to check my watch. All right, we're cool.
Yep.
And
especially with the way that Atlanta's playing this year. And that was something he kind of hit on yesterday as well, was, Brooks Lennon, the fullbacks, they're going to get high up the pitch. That we know that, and we've seen it a lot. But Brooks Lennon also has this tendency lately to kind of drift inside and be like another midfielder. And you're leaving Stian back there essentially by himself. And they've been, practicing moving over and making sure everybody is kind of covered. But he's not concerned about being left out on an island because of his speed, because of his 1v1 defending, and also his aerial ability. I mean, the dude's tall. He's a Sequoia. And it's nice to have that option back there who is confident. And even if there's a mistake, he has the athletic ability, just the raw talent to be able to make up for it.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Maddie, anything else on your mind for Tyler here?
Well, I mean, just talking a bit about just that defense. I mean, it was a struggle last season. Obviously, we had probably the most goals scored, and then we had the most goals conceded as well.
Yeah.
I think especially with when you're having Lennon and Wiley kind of moving up more and being more up the field and like having that back line not there, having Gregerson, having someone who is confident in his abilities. Because like last year was not Miles Robinson's best year at all.
Yeah.
Kind of after that injury, we saw him kind of decline a little bit. And it was hard to really see, you have that attacking force, but you don't have anyone in the back line. So I'm excited to see how it all meshes together, because I think it's going to be more of a unified team and not just, oh, we're attacking base and there's no defense. Unlike another team I don't mention.
I feel like it's a more cohesive unit. I feel like you now have a team that is well designed instead of just a bunch of talent put together. I feel like there is a true identity for the team, and I feel like you've got guys that the vibe just seems there, right? Like at the training ground, we watch them and I try to listen to the jokes and the things like that as much as we can, because that stuff's important. It's an intangible that you don't really realize and that fans don't get to see a lot of. But if you don't have relationships with those guys off the field, you're not gonna have the same chemistry on the pitch in any way. And that's just how it is. That's how sports are. That's how life is. And so seeing these guys out there, they're friends, they're hanging out, they're joking around, they're having fun, they're smiling, they're laughing. It's a stark contrast from what we've kind of seen the past couple of seasons. And you just have to hope that it translates come Saturday and from through the season.
Do we know who the rock, paper, scissors champ currently is?
Nick Firmino.
Okay. Wow.
Nick Firmino. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So does Nick get a belt? Do we know about this? Does he get a championship belt for rock, paper, scissors?
That is a great question. I don't know what the physical reward is, if there is one, but I do think there should be one.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like a WWE belt kind of style would be
great.
And I would want him to wear it every time he walked out of the training ground.
Oh, absolutely. See, every single time he walks out, what you do, you have basically Nick, who is one of the most unassuming and quiet guys ever. Yeah. I mean, and to have this added to his personality, where he can flip a switch and come walking out for practice, and he's got that rock, paper, scissors title belt, and then he has like a couple of attendants. Like he walks out and he goes through the concrete. The second he steps onto the grass, he stops. Two attendants come to the edges. They take the belt off of him. Nick goes like this, hands it to the attendants, and then he goes out for practice.
But then you got to add in the pyrotechnics on the sides.
True.
And whatever his song of choice is.
Absolutely.
Do the whole nine.
I was going to say, you have to have him walk out to a song. I was like, you have to.
Yeah. So when you are up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, if you could perhaps encourage Nick and or Atlanta United to have this consistent presentation for the rock, paper, scissors champ, whomever this is, regardless of if it's Nick Firmino or whomever, I just think that you ought to have the WWE belt. I think you ought to have the right to come out and present it every single time you go out to practice, or, at least once a week. One day, the loosest day of practice, you come out, you have your presentation, serpentina, the whole thing. You go out, you hold up the belt, and then you put the belt away, then you get to business. Before you go, when you look at the Eastern Conference, after you disappear here on your debut, we're going to talk about Messi and Friends, because that's the match tonight, and there's been some juggling of roster, and they are apparently compliant. I say apparently compliant because that's what we are told, and we have to take it at face value. When you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference heading into this season, what do you see?
I see a gauntlet. I see a very tough bunch of teams, and I don't know. It's so hard to predict, because you have a couple of options. The Eastern Conference could go and run it like they did last year, and the West Coast could just entirely be almost non-existent until MLS Cup. Or you could have these Eastern Conference teams just absolutely destroy each other, and have that one good team in the Western Conference that just is able to, have a run and do something. But I do think the stronger teams are in the Eastern Conference. I think Orlando, as much as it pains me to say this,
You're
I
gonna
think Orlando.
prop up the purple team?
I know it. I have to preface this and say I despise them. I do. But I know good soccer when I see it, and at least what looks like a good roster, and I do think they've got the building blocks. They did last year. They've added some pieces. I think Orlando is going to be really, really tough. They were the best team actually in the second half of last year in terms of points. So Orlando, we know Columbus is going to be tough. That's consistent.
Yep.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure about Cincy. I mean, they obviously have Miles and they have a great team, but they've lost some pieces as well. So I think besides Atlanta, those are my three that I'm paying attention to. And you can never bet against Messi, right? And his entire group of friends from Barcelona.
Well, but they're also far north of 30, and they're not at 100%,
Yep.
and they're also in all these multiple competitions, and there is no defense. You want to talk about a team that is going to score goals and give up a lot of goals?
Yes, 100%.
And over.
Oh yeah, always. But I just don't think that they're going to have the run that people expect them to have.
Yeah,
I just don't.
Yeah, I just think that they're going to give up too many goals. They're going to score a boatload of goals. They're going to give up too many. Schedule compression, multiple competitions.
Yep.
Dudes north of 30. It doesn't add up well.
Already dealing with injuries.
And this is it's a top-heavy bunch. Go ahead and hit the promo for us and let us know what's going on. Scarves and Spikes, and now that you have made your official weekly SDH debut, it is time to tell folks that this is going to happen every Wednesday after opening kickoff. Tyler's going to crash the party, and we're going to get his midweek views on the week that was and get ready for the weekend that will be. So hit the promo for me.
Yeah, y'all will get a lot more of me, for good or bad, I guess. So, yeah, no, obviously some things change with Dirty South over the week. A little wild. So, essentially everything is over on Scarves and Spikes now, scarvesandspikes.com. Twitter, Scarves, the letter N, Spikes.
Yes.
And then me. It's just ATL Pilgrim, and of course, got all the guys, Sydney and Tommy over there, and everybody else doing the Scarves and Spikes thing, and trying to give you content and written content and everything else. So that's where we're at.
Yep, nothing. And so we get another Eagles Landing High grad to drop in on a weekly basis. So Tyler, thanks for giving us your time here, especially during the season. And I hope that you realize what you've gotten yourself into by being a part of SDH on your Wednesdays. Thanks for coming and crashing the party.
I'm in it now. I appreciate it, y'all.
All right, that's Tyler. And so Tyler is going to go enjoy his jersey now. And he's gonna wave it at everybody and sit there and go, look, this is me. Yeah, and he's in the green room and he just picked it up and he just waved it right on camera. So right on cue. So it's good to have Tyler as a part of the free for all, especially in a Wall Pass Wednesday. And where on Wednesdays, it could be match day stuff that we talk about. It could be, like I said, it could be wrestling, could be whatever. I know that'll drive Michael head crazy. But literally, Wall Pass Wednesday and Tyler, it seems to be a good fit for anything that goes up against the wall. We'll see where it sticks. So
we can talk about anything and everything.
Yeah, that's what Wall Pass Wednesdays are about. So, all right. So now it's time for opening kickoff.
Almost an hour in.
44 minutes into the show because we had to bring in Lucas because Lucas actually has a paying gig at 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. And then Tyler, traditionally, Tyler's going to be on after opening kickoff. It just so happened that it was a hot tag between Lucas and Tyler this morning. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. Thank you, Abby, for making a better QR code than I ever could. That's your QR code. Once again, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into youth games and youth initiatives that they have earmarked. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yes, we do have some housekeeping that we are going to get into as well as we go because we got to talk Fantasy League. We got to talk about scarves. We got to talk about all the things here in opening kickoff that we normally talk about like 44 minutes ago. So the biggest news of the morning comes from Bayern Munich, and it is Thomas Tuchel. Tommy Tuchel for school is going to depart. It has not gone well. He's leaving at the end of the season. And so now that creates a mad rush to try to figure out who the new coach is going to be. I imagine both Sam Allardyce and Steve Bruce have already put in their resumes, and they're like, yeah, wait, me, waving their hands frantically. So after the 3-2 loss at Bochum on Sunday, at Bochum, Bayern, they've won 11 league titles, 8 points behind Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen. Remember, Xabi Alonso right now is the leader in the clubhouse to take over for Jurgen Klopp when Klopp leaves at the end of this season to go away from Liverpool. So now you have a second large gig open at the end of this year, and now everybody's trying to get all of their money in a row and trying to recruit and see what they can do to bring in whomever they can bring ever. Liverpool, they're looking at Leverkusen, Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen. They are 8 points clear of Bayern Munich. There's even talk that Harry Kane wants out. He's that fed up. So Thomas Tuchel, at the end of the year, Xabi Alonso is even being looked at by Bayern to go from Leverkusen, who could beat Bayern in the Bundesliga to take over at Bayern.
Yeah, I've been seeing that like all over my Twitter, and like I kept seeing stuff like he is leaving, he's not leaving, rumors, what's going on, and then finally it was confirmed. And so I kept seeing the rumors, so I was like, okay, he has to be headed out of there.
Yeah, so right now, this is job number 2. CEO Jan Christian Dresen, quote, in an open, good conversation, we came to the decision to mutually end our collaboration in the summer. Our goal is to carry out a sporting realignment for a new with a new coach for the 24-25 season. A couple of more paragraphs. Thomas Tuchel had a paragraph, and blah, 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 blah. Defeat to Bochum was a 4th of the season in the league and 7th overall. Struggled domestically, losing Super Cup to RB Leipzig in August, going out in the second round of the DFB Pokal to third-tier Saarbrücken back in November. Remember, Saarbrücken basically had like 20% possession and like 2 shots on target, and both of them were goals. So you get that loss. So Tuchel's won 22 of Bayern's 32 matches, played across all comps this campaign, next in action against RB Leipzig on Saturday. So that was the biggest news of the morning. So, of course, because we don't have an evening show or an afternoon drive show, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is now officially official with his purchase of his percentage of Manchester United. That happened, I think, like 7 o'clock last night when we were doing the high school games of the week. He said, according to Will Unwin at The Guardian, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe says he needs to embark on a culture transformation at Manchester United because the club is not geared for success. His 27.7 minority shareholding purchase completed on Tuesday, said about making key appointments as a part of the structure. Remember, Omar Barada is going to join as chief exec this summer for Manchester City. Talk about bringing in Dan Ashworth from Newcastle as a sporting director. And that would be right now at a £20 million price tag. We'll see if United agrees to that. Jason Wilcox is now in a senior role from Southampton. Deputy chief exec is also wanted by Ratcliffe, who aims to make world-class appointments to help facilitate change on the pitch. And there's also going to be another $200 million capital investment by Ratcliffe, and that will take his percentage up to the 28.9 that was initially disclosed as to what his shares were going to be. So right now it's at 27.7. When he invests the other $200 million in infrastructure, it goes up to 28.9. And it's a mix of A shares and B shares. And for those that know what in the wide world of sports that means, it's about voting control and all those kinds of things. So that's where we are with Thomas Tuchel. Interesting note this morning in the lower divisions, and it comes from our friends at Blank You. I'm Millwall. Millwall sacked their manager, and they're going to bring back a dude for the 5th time in club history. They're sacking Joe Edwards. They're going to bring Neil Harris back for the 5th different spell at the club. Joe Edwards sacked after 19 matches. Ex-Alliance player manager Neil Harris set to return to the Den from Cambridge. So literally, he was at Cambridge for like 2 months, and now he's coming back. Edwards brought in November after Gary Rowett was sacked. Millwall have continued to get toward relegation. He's just won 4 of 19, and they're now a point above the championship drop zone. Harris had 2 separate spells at the Den as a player, caretaker manager, permanent manager, and now it's number 5 for Harris. Gone from managing in League 2 to League 1 and the championship all in the same season. So he goes from Gillingham to Cambridge United to Millwall all in 1 year. So literally, he's hit them all. He's gone up the pyramid. The only thing missing is an appointment in the Premier League, and he will have hit the quad in 1 calendar year. I don't quite think that's going to happen, but right now, League Two, League One, now championship with Millwall. Only appointed to the touch them all. The only appointed to the Cambridge job in December, signing an 18-month contract, and so he's out there as well. So that was an interesting dynamic there. Columbus assigned Mo Farsi to a multi-year contract extension. Mo Farsi was the one that basically sent Julian Gressel packing in Columbus in Game 2 of the opening round of the playoffs, because he is less of a defensive liability than Julian Gressel, and that's why he got the start in Game 3 and in the series against Atlanta United. And so now Mo Farsi has signed a multi-year contract extension. Mazel tov to Mo Farsi. Now, all right, Fantasy League. Like I said, this is like we're trying to catch up with as much before we get into MLS and everything else in hour number 2. So Fantasy League, yes, it is up and running. And so Jason Wright, he has made the executive decision that they're gonna wait another week before kicking it off. And so if you haven't gotten the email, it is the Jason Wright Agency on Twitter, on the 280 character app. You follow Jason there, and then on the Facebook, it is the Jason Wright Agency fully on Facebook. So go to the Jason Wright Agency, register if you haven't yet. So if you haven't registered for the Fantasy League, register. If you've got the link. If you haven't gotten the link and want to join in for the first time ever, then go either to the Facebook page for the Jason Wright Agency or follow along at Jason Wright with a WAGEN on Twitter and jump in there and be a part of the Fantasy League once again for season number 7 or 8. So Jason Wright Agency, once again, Fantasy League does exist. So for those of you that haven't signed up, sign up. Jason is giving another week's allowance for the numbers to get to where they've been in the past years. So sign up for the Fantasy League. If you haven't gotten the email, because I got mine this morning. So sign up for the Fantasy League if you got your email. If you haven't gotten an email and want to join the Fantasy League, go through either Twitter or through Facebook for the Jason Wright Agency and be a part of beating me and Jason and everybody else when it comes to the Fantasy League, because I'm awful at fantasy. So there you go. All right. Also, other housekeeping before we get to the top of the hour. Once again, remember, this is the scarf that Maddie has modeled internationally. And so if you want to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands, you can do so by purchasing a scarf from us here at SDH. It's $32, and it is obviously a summer scarf, but what it does is it helps out the Marshall Islands build their national soccer program. You get to be at the front lines of something very, very cool. And we've told the story, and we're going to continue to tell the story because it's just deeper than soccer. And you go to the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation website, you'll see Maddie modeling the scarf. If you go to their app, which is on Android, I don't know if they have one on iPhone because I don't have an iPhone, you can see the same thing there. $32 US. If you are here in the footprint for Soccer Down here in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, the Abstermobile will deliver it to you. So Abby will see you. She will deliver the Marshall Islands scarf. She has set up a form also, and you can go to the Discord and click on it and figure out, okay, how many you want to buy, and if you want Abby to see you, or if you want to spend like an extra $5 and have it shipped. So that is the scarf to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, help them build their program. They are trying to get here for a couple of different events. I think Technical Director Lloyd Hours is going to be here in the spring, and they want to have a big event in Northwest Arkansas in the four corners of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas. I want to say in October, because that's where the Marshallese are concentrated that have been transferred from the Marshall Islands here to the States. So most of them are in that section of Northwest Arkansas near Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that particular part of the planet. So 32, and it is shoot, Ropes, I'll bring the box. I will bring the box of scarves tonight, which is another thing that I've got to get into. So Ropes, excellent with the transition. So once again, you can DM me, you can DM the show, you can reach out to us on mail or whatever. We'll figure it out. They're 32. You can Venmo me because I've got the box. And then once we clear our costs, the rest goes to the Marshall Islands, and we're going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. I sent a scarf to somebody in Alabama yesterday. That's what we have here with our friends from the Marshall Islands. So pick up the scarf. It's 32. And what we mean by tonight is tonight at Elsewhere Brewing, the new greenhouse location, 950 West Marietta Street. We're live. We're live tonight from 6 to 8. And it is another one of our live shows. It's a season kickoff event. Thanks to Scott Flood and the Flood Project for orchestrating this. And it is once again, catching up with all of you folks, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. And special guest is VP Chief Business Officer Sarah Kate Knopfsinger. So Skate Knopfsinger is going to be there. We'll catch up with Skate for a while. It's at the greenhouse location in West Midtown, 950 West Marietta Street Northwest. We're there from 6 to 8. Probably start the show maybe 6:30 or so. And we'll catch up with Skate, get the business perspective on everything from Atlanta United, talk some soccer, talk with you. And it's going to be a fun night. It's going to be our season kickoff. So once again, Elsewhere Brewing, the new greenhouse location, 950 West Marietta Street from 6 to 8 will be there. Skate Knopfsinger will be there. She will be answering questions from us about what's going on. So that's where we will be tonight. And I will bring the box of scarves. I legitimately will be in a box. I will bring the box of scarves. Morning, Dell. Real estate continuing education. My apologies. So that's what Dell is up to this morning. So, all right. So let me see what I missed in hour number 1 because we had 2 great guests breaking everything down. So we'll see who's here this morning. Morning, Alex. Morning, Tom. Yes, happy Conca Champions and MLS Opening Day Wednesday. Morning, Abby. And okay, apparently, according to Tom, that there might be a lot for the supporters groups to tailgate at this season. Apparently close to a deal announcement soon. Pars, what made the MLS pick the season start-stop layout that we have? Probably a combination of the league and TV money. It's like, yeah, well, what if we do this? We want to have a kickoff. We want to monopolize these time frames. So that's what I'm thinking happened there. Like I said, we'll get into Messi and friends coming up in just a little bit because there is news. Needed to ask Lucas about the new Nashville kid. I think it's on his social media at Lucas Panzica. The rankings from the new kits. Okay, 8th should have been high. Yeah, Seattle's is tremendous. Seattle's new kid is absolutely amazing. But Broadway Sports Media apparently ranked all 29. But I would have Atlanta higher than 8. Of course, I'm partial. Let's see. Tom, after last night in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, do we need to add Carranza to the Golden Boot possibilities? No, but we might add Jacob Glesnes to it. That was an all-world OG. And, I mean, you don't mess around in the Monsters. Oh, man, you do not mess around in the Monsters Cave in Saprissa. 3-2. It was crazy last night. It was 1-0. Saprissa had a lead. And then Carranza gets the hat trick. He got the natural hattie. And then Saprissa comes back to make it 3-2. And so the return leg in Chester for our buddy Rich Ransom is going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting. So we'll see what happens there. I wouldn't add him to the Golden Boot, but I would certainly add Jacob Glesnes just for issues and giggles. Let's see. More Shooter is saying that his Revolution, 10th place for his team. 10 fans, 10th place. So there you go. Shooter, as always, he never wanted to mince words. Saturday, Tom says that has a draw written all over it. Sure as hell be nice to start off the season with a win on the road against the defending champs. Talk about announcing you're back, no doubt. And let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else here that I missed. Yeah, I have not. I saw the scarf, Tom, for the Resurgence kit. Really like the scarf. I think that's very, very cool. And yeah, the shorts maybe a darker blue, or and I guess gold socks. I don't know, unless they're just going full, ice blue all the way through. I don't think they've ever sold shorts. I can't, but it's like legitimately it would always be a part of what's going on. So, yeah, we got the live show tonight. Talked about the live show at Elsewhere. No yellow for changing name color to match the new kit. May have to switch to light blue in honor of the new kit, like the blue name badge. Tom, much better roster for sure. Tom thinks that Pineda seats slightly warm coming into the season. Yeah, and okay, so now that we've cleared the top of the hour, Rich has way too early MLS season predictions. Since it's a crapshoot, really depends on how lucky you are. He's got the purple team in Seattle in the Cup final. So, yeah, Seattle to me, and we'll get into this more on Friday. The Western actually tomorrow, because Nico Moreno will be joining us at 10:30. Jason joins us tomorrow at 9:30 to talk Atlanta United, and Nico Moreno joins us at 10:30 because practice for Atlanta United starts at 10. So Jason will be with us at 9:30 for about 20 minutes, head into practice, and he'll see what's going on there on the -2 day, and he'll be leaving for Columbus on Friday. So that's where Atlanta United is concerned. So Jason's on at 9:30. Nico Moreno on Thursday will be joining us at 10:30 back from Colombia and his trips. But the West for me is far less tight than the East. The East is going to be a street fight. The West, however, is not. Be very, very interesting to see the West and what's going on there. Roster compliance. I know that we were. Has the code come out? I have not seen the code ropes. Like I said, hopefully you've gotten an email or circle back with Jason Wright on Facebook or Twitter. And if that has not, then hopefully then you found it. Okay, good. Cool. Yeah, George Steinbrenner's ghost definitely running the team. No doubt about it. So, all right, here we are. Union defense started horribly. They did fight back, and they scored the 3. All right, so Messi and friends. Tonight, it's the beginning of the season for Major League Soccer. And roster compliance was less of an issue for our friends in RSL than it was for Messi and friends. So here's the deal. Gregory and the sale to Botafogo, Ascona to Vegas, got them compliant. That got it to work.
Supposedly,
yes. Possibly, probably, maybe, but that is what the league is telling folks like Paul Tenorio over at The Athletic. It was that deal that got him squared away. So Ascona to Vegas helped out to some degree because you're shedding roster spots. So the deal with Gregory to Botafogo, the salary figure attached that you can convert into allocation money on the deal, the $4.8 million also for the sale, that was the number that was alleged, $4 million, sorry. So the deal to Botafogo for Gregory, that made them compliant. Franco Escobar ropes, that is the other subplot here, or part of the subplot. Franco Escobar has been linked, and I think it was Cesar Luis Merlo who had Franco Escobar linked to Miami. How, I don't know. How this fits, I don't know. Maddie did see this morning that they did, meaning Messi and friends, use the one-time buyout as we had anticipated on Coco Jean. Corentin Jean got the buyout. Means that he will not occupy an international roster slot or count against the 24 salary budget. So that opens up that window. Joined Inter Miami halfway through the 22 season from Lens, goal and an assist in 18 matches before tearing his ACL last July. So the latest, the Coco Jean exit, the latest departure from Inter Miami as they look to become roster compliant. Okay, so that was what was referred to by the league on the league website. Now, once again, we don't know if there is anything to play off Franco heading to Miami. We don't know yet because there's conversations. And like I said, and as Rope said, he wasn't on Houston's roster last night. Is there cap space? The international spot opens up with the move of Coco Jean. Do you have enough salary space from the top of the cap, which also had its new number announced? And so Doug Robertson announced that. We'll get to that number. I think it's like $5.6 million from $5.21. So you didn't even get you got like an 8% increase in the salary cap with the league currently being what it is. So you go from 5.21 to 5.6. And right now, We don't know the future of Franco Escobar. It looks like Messi and friends were interested. The departure of Coco Jean might open up that roster spot and the international spot. Now, the other element in this is that it appears that they are still trying to lock down the young midfielder that they were trying to secure from Argentinos Juniors, Redondo. So Redondo, once again, $8 million, 15% of the pass. And Redondo, from all indications, when he comes in, would be the substitute for the season-ending injury for Facundo Farias. So that's where that goes. You can replace one for the other in a situation like that. The way that it's worded, as Paul Tenorio did the dirty work here in chasing after roster and budget guidelines and all these other kinds of things. So the work that Paul Tenorio did in trying to dig up what was going on with Messi and friends is that long-term injury replacement. So there you go. Gregory de Botafogo cleared the way. So this is the chain. Sale of Gregory de Botafogo meant that they were roster compliant. Redondo, when or if it is finalized, is a season-ending injury replacement player. Once again, this is Messi and friends going line by line and position by position or space by space and filling out the roster. Gregory de Botafogo, roster compliant. Ascona to Vegas helps you out. Franco Escobar to Messi and friends, we don't know. Coco Jean, they used the buyout. He's gone. So Gregory out, Jean out, Ascona out to a lesser extent, to a massively lesser extent when it comes to handling your bottom line. And now we're trying to figure out, can you bring folks in? But Redondo, once again, when or if he is finalized, would be the replacement for Facundo Farias, who's out for the year. Here's how it is worded in budgeting down here for this kind of a purchase. The salary budget charge of the replacement player may not be more than the player who suffered the season-ending injury. If you bring him in as a U22, he only counts $200,000 anyway. If the injured player placed on the season-ending injury list is a DP, the club may replace such player with a DP provided that his salary budget charge is not more than the player he is replacing. The replacement player's charge will not be charged against the club's salary budget. So literally, this is line by line that Messi and friends are doing to try to stay compliant and get compliant, or get compliant and stay compliant, and fill in all of their spots. So that's where we are. 3 out, 2 possibly in. 1 would be a straight-up line item replacement, Redondo for Farias, and we still don't know about playoff Franco. So that's where we are. But as of right now, you've got 5.5. You've got decision on Redondo, decision on Franco Escobar. But as of right now, you're compliant. My head hurts.
Yeah. And on top of that, I found some news.
Yeah.
That it's easier for me to explain it than it is for me to send it.
Yeah.
Supposedly this goes into the conversation about Open Cup.
Sure.
Apparently there was a Salt Lake City fan. Yes, Salt Lake City. Yes. Okay. Apologize. St.
Sure.
Louis? It's St. Louis. I'm so sorry.
Yes, St. Louis. St. Louis. Yeah, St. Louis played last night.
Yes, it's St. Louis. So apparently St. Louis supporter had a sign. Mm-hmm. And I can send the picture of the sign in our chat, and we can send it to everyone so they can see it.
Yeah, just send the Twitter link and folks can look at it. I think I know what sign you're talking about.
Yeah, so pretty much if you want to know, and I will send it in the chat. It is there.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly this fan got threatened that he would get his season tickets taken away because of the sign it was. And the sign was a picture of the Open Cup, and it's the Open Cup matters.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's
Yeah.
that's pretty much
Well,
shoot.
you know, you clubs when it comes to signs and how signs can be held. I mean, the thing is, first and foremost, I will say this: when it comes to going into a venue, and our supporters group folks here that are watching the show, they know that when they go into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that there's only certain things they can do. You can have flags and noisemakers and things like that. And I know that in the past, there have been supporters either for Atlanta United or for opposing teams that have wanted to bring in actual signs to hold up during play. So for our SGs that are out there watching, what is the guideline at Mercedes-Benz Stadium when it comes to what you can bring in, what you can't bring in? Because we don't know at All Caps Park, first and foremost, we don't know what the rules are when it comes to signage being brought into a building.
I will say, supposedly from the fan, that he has been allowed to bring in signs before with no issue at all. But it was this sign.
Okay. That the Open Cup matters.
With the Open Cup.
Yeah. So the
Open. Now, again, we don't really know, what the rules are, how that works, or what's going on. But it's causing a lot of speculation just about the different, how MLS is approaching, obviously, the Open Cup in itself. And so it brings some questions. I saw that and I was like, let's bring it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is something that that came up last night, and it, obviously with everything involving venues, MLS, Rich says that MLS is known to target signs at times when something is in the news, and so you've got that, and then Tom Russo, MLS really stepped in it with the whole USOC thing, a seriously bad look. Ropes remembers when the Austin supporters had an issue with a sign they brought into MBS. So this first off, and to Rich's point, and we take Rich's point and we have it as a part of this discussion, venues have their own rules. I don't know what All Caps Park's rules are when it comes to signs themselves. I mean, you could bring in the drums, the noisemakers, the flags, all that kind of stuff. I don't know what the rules are when it comes to signs. So, yes, it was, to Rich's point, yes, it was interesting that a fan brings in a sign that talks about Open Cup into an MLS venue, and then team, personnel tied to the team, we don't know what their actual direct role was with the club at All Caps SC. They threaten the guy with revoking his season tickets unless he puts the sign down or gives them the sign or whatever. So, it is an interesting situation in St. Louis with what happened with the fan and the sign. I want to know more about the rules. And Ropes thinks that the Austin thing was a pro-women's health care sign, because I think that was part of the discussion at the time when Austin came to the building. But yeah, so it literally is going by the rules of engagement in each venue. And since I don't know what the rules of engagement are at All Caps Park, this did happen. And so you're taking the supporter at his or her word about the sign. And yes, when you have a sign promoting the Open Cup taken away in an MLS venue, no, that is not a good look. So, yeah. And so we also remember tonight, and I'm not quoting Phil Collins, tonight we also have replacement refs. Remember, we've got replacement refs. We've got replacement VAR upstairs. So it could be a very interesting match to see how all of this fits together so far as we go into the 2024 season. Thank you, Tom. At Mercedes-Benz, all the drums and flags have to be pre-approved brought in ahead of time and placed in seats, from what he understands, and any sign that's even remotely political won't be allowed. So, if it's considered to be a political sign and political sign can be a nebulously worded thing when it comes to activity in St. Louis. But no, it adds to the increasing not good looks from Major League Soccer to have an incident like this. But like I said, when it comes to that, like I said, I don't know what the rules are from park to park, and I know that MLS has their own overarching thing. I don't know what the rules of engagement are in St. Louis. Yes, Alex, thank you for following along with the lyrics. Thank you. So remember, tonight, we'll go over juice boxes and other thoughts coming up in just a sec. Remember, Pro locked out the PSRA over the weekend. So unless there's a deal that happens in the next 9 hours, you're going to have replacement refs that are going to be attached to the league as the league kicks off. So last week, PSRA voted down a proposed collective bargaining agreement, refused a no-strike lockout proposal. Lockout started a few days later. And remember, this is where the PSRA is concerned, and Pro. Literally, it was a situation where the negotiators or the hires up of the PSRA came out and said, we've agreed to a deal. Literally, Pro PSRA, the PSRA negotiators, the upper crust of the PSRA, they came out and said, we agreed to a deal. We tentatively agreed to a deal. Then it goes to the rank and file, and 96%, 95.8% of them were like, nope. So that really is not a good look for the hierarchy and the negotiators for the PSRA off the top. And so now they have all been locked out. Lockout started. First referee stoppage in a decade. They want to be paid more. They want quality of life improvements, particular travel accommodations. And Pro offered to pay for business class air travel to the regular season finale, which the refs are assigned at the last minute in the playoffs. And veteran official, this is according to Jonathan Tannenwald, veteran official Corey Rockwell noted it would cover 4 or so of his 70-plus flights a year. On Twitter, Corey Rockwell said, well-deserved improvement for MLS players traveling charter to and from versus coach travel 5 years ago. Rockwell, on his social media, said that CBA offered to upgrade 4 of his 70-plus flights to business class in 2024. So most of our refs live in non-MLS cities. He says every game is a flight and an away game. And you have that point of view from Rockwell's. For the money side, not just about the center refs, many of them full-time at this point, sideline officials are not. One source with knowledge of the matter told the Inquirer most ARs, the ones with the offside flags, make at most $35,000 a year from their MLS regular season work. Lead VAR, and AVAR make $17,000 a year for around 30 games a season. Pro offered raises across the board and put that out in a news release. Percentages, Tannenwald says the percentages matter less than the actual dollars to the union, along with other issues. Statement by Peter Manikowski came out. Mark Geiger came out, and Geiger's coming off the bench to do VAR. Pro is funded by the leagues it serves. MLS puts in the most money. And so then Nelson Rodriguez for MLS said that he is disappointed. He was the one who was quoted by Major League Soccer. The one thing that I would caution is that when officials say that they are on the road, I think it was 200 days out of the year. During an MLS season, if you work 40 weeks, if you work 40 matches, and you say you're on the road for 200 days out of the season, that means you're on the road 5 days out of the week for single match weeks. I don't see how that math adds up, but that's just me. So always in these situations, when you have two sides at a negotiating table, and the third, specifically the league that oversees, that wants the input from these individuals to have them work. Once again, take the information that each of these sides presents. Do not take it at face value. Do your own research and dig into the statements that are being made. like I said, that one statement that was made where the official said they were on the road 200 days out of the year. I don't know how that's physically possible. It might be day in, game, day out, might be 120 as opposed to 200. But when someone says they're on the road for 200 days out of the year, match schedule 36 plus playoffs, so maybe 42. 42 and 3 is still 126. That is not close to 200. So in situations like this, look at what Major League Soccer is saying. Look at what Pro is saying. Look at what the PSRA is saying. You might have to come up with 3 separate columns on a piece of paper. One says this, one says this, one says this. Take all of the evidence and all the information. Do your own research to come up with your own opinions. Do not take everything when it comes to what they're saying about in-season activity and apply it to the larger picture.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want a good place to look, I mean, me and Bart talked about it on Monday a little bit from also his perspective as being a ref too. And it's about finding that agreement, but I think one thing that is collectively agreed upon is that the talent. We're having assistant refs come in who, it's going to affect the way the game is played. It's going to affect the way most of the season is going to be played for the beginning half of it. So, there's a push. And I believe it was MLS SPA, MLSPA.
Yeah, the PA, the Players
Yes,
Association.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I had like a brain fart for a second. I believe they came out and said the same thing, they need to find an agreement because, there's going to be a weird decline in kind of how a game is called.
Perhaps.
But also, too, we don't know that necessarily either because we don't know exactly who they're bringing in. And I think it's like you mentioned, it's literally just finding your own research and knowing who's who because we don't know who they're bringing up. I don't think have the refs been announced for tonight's match yet?
I will check. It is normally attached. We'll go to the Pro website traditionally has them. So the numbers were announced. The 66, I think, that were allotted. Let's see. Yeah, Pro had commitments from 66 replacement officials. And once again, this is from our friends at The Athletic. So here's the numbers that are drifting in. So Bogert and Maurer 4 days ago. 66 officials. Pro has commitments from, according to sources, with PSRA locked out. Of the 66, 26 can be assigned as a center ref or a fourth. 29 can be an AR. Additionally, Pro GM Mark Geiger will be available as a video assistant referee. Don't think for a second that Mark Geiger isn't attached to the match tonight. Geiger refereed from MLS to 04 to 19, listed FIFA of ref from 08 to 19, becoming the first American to ref a World Cup knockout game, which he did in 2014, refereed the 2018 World Cup, but well before retiring the following year. The center referees include 11 options with experience in the top 3 divisions of Brazil, Turkey, Spain, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, and Poland. 10 are former or current national referees in U.S. soccer, and multiple were recommended and worked Division I college soccer. 4 of the ARs have professional experience in other countries, including Brazil, Cuba, Peru, El Salvador. Pro, who have been certified by IFAB in the past or have worked games at FIFA competitions as VAR, will be used in that capacity. So Pro management, certified by IFAB in the past or have worked games at FIFA competitions as VARs, will be used in those capacities. Matches hosted by any of MLS's 3 Canadian-based clubs serviced by Canada Soccer. And once again, the last lockout happened in 2014. So those are the numbers. That's where they're coming from. And so that's what you're staring at for the foreseeable future when it comes to the referees in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Alex says, yes, A always, B, B, C confirming, always be confirming.
Yeah,
yes.
Always. And where I got that from is I was looking through Twitter last night and I saw MLS Player Association. They came out and said, this is their statement. I'm reading it from their Twitter. We are extremely disappointed with the professional referees organization, Pro, and Major League Soccer have failed to reach a collective bargaining agreement with the Professional Soccer Referees Association. The lockout imposed by the PSRA members and deployment of replacement referees is a step backwards for MLS. All workers deserve fair wage, safe working conditions, and the ability to bargain in good faith. On the eve of the 2024 MLS season, attention should be focused on the competition of the field. The use of replacement refs will not only negatively impact the quality and the results of our matches, it may also jeopardize the health and safety of players. We urge Pro and MLS to return to the table and bargain in good faith with PSRA to work towards a timely and fair agreement.
Okay. So they had a paragraph where they got to say what they wanted to say to puff their chest out. Good for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Pro on their website has not posted the assignments for tonight. So Pro has not posted it. We can go to Major League Soccer's website in a little bit and see if the names are down at the bottom of the page where they traditionally are. But Pro, as of right now, has not posted the crew for the match for tonight, nor have they posted the crews for the weekend. Traditionally, what they do leading into a weekend is a couple days' notice. Usually the announced crews get announced. We mentioned those yesterday. Then you get the center ref crew announced, and then you have all those matches, and then everybody works, and then we all start fishing for information on these guys and how much of a hair trigger they are when it comes to their fouls and such. So I have yet to hear anything about all of it. Apparently, Ropes looks like Pablo's particular piece of information got pulled. So he's rethinking whatever it was that he was going to try and say here. Kefsi says, I'm not hearing that these are less qualified refs. I mean, they have done league play. It's just that they are in different areas. They're in different sections of the planet.
Yeah, there are different areas. I think what happened with me, at least, and I will apologize. I just didn't do my research very clearly, and I apologize for that. I saw that on MLS Spot, and then I was like, huh? I was like, why would they come out and say something like that? And I mean, hearing what you said about all the refs that are going to be coming in, I mean, well, there's talented refs.
There's going to be an adjustment. There's going to be an adjustment with these individuals getting up to the speed of play of Major League Soccer. And, you know, if you have individuals who have if they are very, very tight. But once again, when these officials come in, you're going to have to do some full research on these individuals. When you get your when you're getting your assignment, you are literally trying to find as much information about these individuals. You're trying to get book on them to figure out, okay, do they call a match tightly? Do they let it go? How are they with yellow cards? How are they with dishing these things out? This is what you're going to have folks who are going to be fishing for information on these guys the second they're announced. And so literally when Pro makes the announcement of who the crew is going to be for the match with Messi and friends in RSL tonight, you're going to have folks trying to do as much research as humanly possible on referees, referee statistics, and trying to figure out how these folks are calling matches. We've got book on Pro with the folks that we're used to with the PSRA.
Yeah,
it's going to be a bit of a treasure hunt trying to figure out how these folks are going to call matches, and it's going to be an adjustment for the players. I mean, this isn't bringing you or me in there to wear a golden jersey, long sleeve jersey, black shorts, black socks, and black shoes. That's not what's going on here. The styles of play in these nations, yes, are different. It will be an adjustment pattern, but I don't think this is going to be a complete fall down Monday Night Football, Hail Mary in Green Bay where it's a catch and you have the two guys looking at each other going, is it a catch? Is it a touchdown? No, yes, it is. Yes, it is. One convinces the other it's a touchdown. I don't think you're going to have one of those moments.
I don't think so either.
I hope to God we don't.
I pray.
I don't think we are, but I don't think this is just like pulling a dude from his breakfast at Bohangles and going, yeah, bro, we need you. It's not one of these situations. I mean, no. Pro has done their research to bring in these individuals. We will see what the adjustment pattern is and how long these folks are going to be here. Hopefully not very long. but apparently the two sides, Pro and PSRA, are far apart. We don't know. But the bottom line is that's the rundown from where these officials are coming from. It's not like their proverbial chopped liver. And Emilio, I don't know. Emilio asks if the replacements are going to be referred to. Trialist AR. Well, I mean, trialist would lend itself to the idea that they would be working toward a job with the PSRA and Pro. And I don't know how well that would be received in some union circles here in North America. So, yeah, so it will be a very, very interesting, very intriguing to see how they're received, how they run the match. Do they, do they sit there and call things a little, and I'll use this word, but it's not what I mean, a little softer than they don't want to step on any toes immediately by coming in and being a bunch of hard asses, and they might let the game breathe a little bit. So for defenses in these maybe this first weekend or first couple of weekends, maybe defenses get away with things a little bit more. Play might be a little more physical, that the guys might be a little afraid in their new gig to blow the whistle. We'll see. So Rope says what you saw from the pulled article was that the center F was from the USL. Okay. Was the because I tried clicking on the link and the folks at the Twitters decided not to be nice and let me link to it. So I don't know what's going on with the Twitters. Maybe they're just misbehaving. Yeah, page doesn't exist. Try searching for something else. But yeah, once we find out who Ropes, if you find out who the dude is, post it in the Twitch pitch so we can do our own deep diving tonight and figure out who this is and what is going on. The cost of replacements, according to Michael Valverde, will add up to more than the difference of the offered and requested salaries, with a wink. Yes. This whole process is going to be very interesting. Bringing everybody in for travel and from all the different leagues that they've been in. I want to know what the travel expenses are and housing them up. That to me is going to be, Emilio, basically, yes. It's not like Independence Day when they're looking for people with flying experience and Randy Quaid shows up. Excellent analogy. Excellent. Vietnam, sir. I was in Nam. No, it's not one of those. Yeah, I fly crop dusters now. No, it's not one of those situations. That is not how this works. So Pro has done their looks. They brought folks in. They got 66 dudes who are going to be a part of this. Like I said, it's going to be interesting how they navigate a game. Are they going to let things go? Does Messi get Messi rules in Salt Lake City? Or are they going to have some kid in Salt Lake just sit there and try to take Messi out and see what happens? That to me is going to be. I want to see how this goes on tonight with Messi and friends in RSL. So very intriguing to see how this lays out. But yeah, Ropes, if you can post who it was when you find it, then we can do our own due diligence and figure out what the reffing crew is going to look like. Once again, traffic. Tomorrow, Jason at 9:30, Nico Moreno from Seattle at 10:30. And on Friday morning, our friends from Beyond Goals, I think it's Greg's turn. Greg Garza joining us to kick off the season at 9:30. And Kevin Egan will be joining us at 10 o'clock to roll through everything. We get to talk about his new gig. We get to talk about the season, talk about Atlanta United, and find out what's going on in the mind of Kevin Egan as he heads to New York for the weekend. Very, very busy times for him.
That was a good accent. That was really good.
That's like I said, it's prolonged overexposure. I know how to sound like Gary Smith. I know how to sound like certain folks, like maybe once or twice, and that's about it. But
you're pulling out all the accents today. You pull out
it's amazing. It's amazing. I know it's amazing what happens with when you've got a little Mountain Dew in your system. New rules, by the way. Let's get into the new rules that are going to be here this year. Many rules the replacement officials will have to enforce include video reviews, which a lot of refs haven't been trained to use. And once again, this is the words of Jonathan Tannenwald. 2 new rules around injuries and substitutions. First, with injured players, or in some cases, seemingly injured players. If a player goes down and stays down for more than 15 seconds, center official will stop play. Team's medical staff will come out. Player must then leave the field and stay off for 2 minutes. So power play. So, you might end up with a 2-minute power play if he's down for longer than 15, or do managers sub out? That's the question. They're not injured. Once again, forced to play down a man for 2 minutes. Second rule mandates players who are substituted out must leave the field within 10 seconds of the stoppage of the play. If the player doesn't leave in time, his incoming teammate will have to wait 60 seconds extra, then until the next stoppage in play. There are exceptions for injuries and goalkeeper substitutions. MLS noted when the rule was launched in MLS Next Pro last year, 99.7% of the more than 3,200 substitutions that took place were completed in 10 seconds or less. Stoppage time. Traditionally, it would stop at 45, and then you get the pluses, and then you go from there. Clock stop at 45. The clock will keep counting past 45 and keep counting past 90. And so we'll have that. So we'll know the actual time as we go. VAR with FIFA announcements in Stadia, that's now in MLS. When a video review decision is made, center ref will announce the verdict over the system's PA. Long in the case in other sports, now it's the case in soccer. Apple, Spanish language version of MLS 360. Gio Savarese is going to be a part of that. And the Saturday Night Whip Around show with live coverage. So now Tony Cerci, Gio Savarese, Miguel Gallardo. Multi-view option if you're watching on an iPad. Like Apple TV boxes, you'll be able to watch up to 4 games at once on one screen with an iPad. As was the case, cost is the same if you subscribe to Apple TV season tickets. Primary account holder gets a season pass for free and can share it with up to 5 through Apple's family sharing system. Remember, T-Mobile gave MLS season pass free to mobile phone customers, like it long has with MLB. No word about whether that's going to happen this year, and nothing to announce as of Tuesday. So keep an eye on that. But those are your rule changes as we head into this year, and it will be, once again, interesting to see about the adjustments by the managers to the substitutions, the players to the injuries, all of that stuff. Okay, so Ropes, once again, doing us a public service. So, all right, so down into the article, let's see, PSRA, who's going to referee? Okay, Christian Campo Hernandez is going to be the center ref for Inter Miami and RSL. He officiated matches in USL Championship last year, previously an NCAA referee, also part of the Pro Talent ID program, the mechanism that Pro uses to identify and develop future MLS referees. Members of Pro's management, certified in the past, are going to work VAR. We know that. Okay, so Christian Campo Hernandez will be the man in the middle tonight for Messi and Friends and RSL. Thank you, Ropes, for doing the Lord's work this morning. Your Lord's work. Congratulations. Thank you for doing that this morning. So Christian Campo Hernandez is going to be the man in the middle for MLS. So USL assignments. Let's see if we can see what Christian Campo Hernandez did last season. So SMO referees. Let's see if Christian Campo Hernandez is listed in the referee statistics for last season. Christian Campo Hernandez did not do anything in Major League Soccer. So assignments, USL assignments, other competitions. So they only give statistics for actual referees in first division games. Okay, so they don't have Christian Campo Hernandez stats from USL Championship last year. So we'll keep an eye on Christian Campo Hernandez and how he navigates the match this tonight when it comes to Inter Messi and for RSL. Juice boxes for this one. We'll get into fun facts coming up in just a little bit. All right, so matchups tonight. We'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and also the what to watch and where to watch it. And for Major League Soccer, juice boxes, once again, courtesy of our friends in the composite odds portal. Messi and Friends are a minus 185. Your draw is a plus 350. RSL is a plus 437. Now, as we get into when it comes to totals, we've said take the over practically in all these matches. So right now, the over-under at 3 tonight is a minus 122. That's where it changes in the composite. Over-under of 3.5 is a plus 129. Over-under of 4 is a plus 225. 4.5, which would mean something along the lines of 3-2, is a plus 286. So it flips from 3 to 3.25. So technically 3.5. So 3.5, you're on the plus side at a plus 129 when it comes to your over and under and your totals that we'll be looking at all season long. Fun facts when it comes to this particular matchup, and this is what we always like to do. This is kind of like the warm-up for Weekend Whip Around, which we're going to have on Friday after Kevin Egan. And so we'll go through all of the matches on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll go through what everybody thinks with all of these. So looking at your – do they not even have fun facts for this one? What is up? You're supposed to have like fun facts that you traditionally have. How do you not have fun facts? I feel so robbed in this. I am completely stunned. Traditionally, we have fun facts and we get to read about all these things. And all we have is that it's a Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale at 8 o'clock. And I don't have any fun facts. I am stunned. How could we not explain what's going on with everything if we don't have any fun facts leading into this matchup?
I mean, I have some insights from Foot Mob.
So what did our friends at Foot Mob have to say about this match?
Well, there's only 2. And it's about how many goals they've scored in the last couple matches. So Inter Miami have scored 8 goals in their last 5 matches.
Of course they have.
Real Salt Lake have scored 7 goals in their last 5 matches. And, you know, that's all I got.
Okay. So that's more than we had. Keep an eye on Diego Luna for RSL. And our friends at MLS Soccer decided to rank all the 29 teams by tier. And you're looking at trophy favorites, and you're looking at trophy favorites. Of course, you're going to put Inter Miami in there. Cincinnati, elite contenders. Atlanta United's listed as an elite contender. But right now, shocking no one, the league website and the writer had Messi and friends as a cup contender. Because if you don't have them as a cup contender, you're going to be registered as crazy.
Here is my thing. I just listen, and I know that I get on my soapbox about Messi and friends all the time. I do. But listen, I don't think they're going to be bad, but I just don't think they're going to be as good as everybody is like hyping them up to be. They literally have no backline. They have nobody there.
Yeah.
If they do score a lot of goals, they're probably going to go right back and score and have the other team score more goals on the backside. I'm like, I really don't think they're going to be as good as everyone is making them out to be. And I think you're putting this precedent that, you know, they have these players, so they're going to be top contender. Again, sometimes no matter how much money you buy for the talent, sometimes it's not going to compare. I mean, look at Chelsea. Do you need an example? Look at Chelsea.
Sorry to Michael Head and our resident Chelsea fans that are out there, but yeah, Todd
I
Bowley,
apologize, Chelsea fans.
Todd Bowley and Bowley Clear Lake, they wanted all the toys. We knew this, and so they wanted all the toys. They're getting all the toys, and you are you're mid table. So you spend all the money, and you end up with what you end up with as a club. So. I'm trying to see if U.S. Soccer Way has anything that said Christian Campo Hernandez was a 4th in August for New Mexico United and FC Tulsa. So the League One assignments are out. Okay, so profile and no, you don't need that. So let's see. He was a ref. He was center most of the time. Okay. All right. So here's what a couple of websites have. Christian Campo Hernandez, with his work in 23 and 22 in USL Championship, most of his time was as a 4th, and he did have 3 times in the middle, 2 during U.S. Open Cup. He was there for the Sounders San Diego Loyal 6-goal craziness, and also for a match early on in the year with UDA Soccer in Park City, Loud United and Oakland Roots. He was the middleman for that match in USL Championship. But his last activity apparently in USL Championship was as a 4th for New Mexico United and FC Tulsa back in late August of 2023. So like I said, I'm still trying to dig up stats, but most of his time apparently was spent as a fourth. He has spent time in the middle as an official in the USL. So we got that to look at with Christian Campos Hernandez tonight when it comes to Messi and Friends and RSL. So we'll keep an eye on that. That begins the beginning of the season for Major League Soccer. And we will obviously tomorrow we'll talk to Jason about Atlanta United. We'll talk to Nico about Seattle and the Western Conference and all these other kinds of things. Other news of the morning. And like I said, we spent a lot of time getting ready for tonight. A little after 8 o'clock, it's going to be Jake and TT. They're going to be making the call on Apple TV. So also tonight we actually have Liverpool and Luton, I think. At least that's what it says as a kickoff at 2:30. All right, so apparently we talked about Manchester United and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Apparently he's unable to spend big in the summer after the splurge of £555 million. And this is an exclusive at the Telegraph. The first summer transfer budget will be severely squeezed by FFP and take an even bigger hit if the club fail to qualify for Champions League. The United spend over the previous 3 summer windows, coupled with struggles to raise meaningful funds through sales, leaves Ratcliffe with little financial headroom for his first summer in charge. Spending power will diminish further if Erik ten Hag is unable to secure a top 4 finish and the club miss out on the minimum £40 million windfall for participation in the group stage. So Tuesday evening, Ratcliffe was very, very happy that everything got locked in place for his initial 27.7% purchase of the club. And he had a couple of paragraphs and sentences where he expressed his happiness, but it appears that because of PSR, clubs with maximum loss is $105 million over a 3-year period. Manchester United's going to have to keep an eye on what they do. Also, going back quickly to the officials thing that we were discussing. Apparently, Pro has sought to keep the identities of the replacement referees under wraps, partly out of concern that the PSRA will try to persuade them not to cross the picket line. A source briefed on the thinking told The Athletic. Yet since lining up at least 66 replacement refs last week, indications are Pro has received further commitments from officials rather than anyone pulling out. So this is being viewed as an opportunity. This is being viewed as an opportunity by officials to, it's like, hey, here's a shot for me to prove what I'm worth. And so you now have individuals who, if they do well in this replacement, if they do well as replacements, they could get looked at by Pro, and they could end up with positions and elevated chances to do more things than they had in the past. So I think a lot of these folks are viewing this as an opportunity. So I think that's what you're staring at here. Open Cup news quickly from Henry Bushnell over at Yahoo. Paul McDonough, president of the USL, says to Bushnell his understanding that the 2024 Open Cup will happen, but probably with only 8 MLS teams. Situation still fluid, though. USL clubs, many of whom feel wronged, are still deliberating. And so keep an eye on Bushnell and his account over at Yahoo Sports, because he's banging out a piece. And so we'll keep an eye on Bushnell and what's going on with Open Cup. So it is going to, by all indications, Open Cup is going to look different. We don't know how many Major League Soccer teams are going to be engaged. And like I said, USL Championship teams, they were kind of pissed. And so they, were thinking that maybe they wouldn't be involved in Open Cup. So we'll see what happens with Open Cup as a part of the discussion as well. So a lot of stuff in flux this morning as we get ready for the season. Not necessarily that it's a surprise on a bunch of different fronts, but we've had some firings, we've had some hirings, we've had folks to sit there and go, Champions League was crazy last night. 3-2, Philadelphia gets the win over Saprissa in Costa Rica. They're coming back home. St. Louis City, all caps, wins 2-1. They had a 1-0 lead. Tim Parker with the goal. Houston came back to equalize to tie it at 1. And then in the 90th minute, first-round draft pick signs his deal. He's in the match for 3 minutes, gets the game-winning goal. So 2-1 winner for all caps last night. And that will be what they take with them heading into the second leg. You remember back about a week or so ago, Chris Wilder, who is in charge at Sheffield United, he was brought back after the horrendous start that they had. He was brought back to manage for the rest of the season. Paul Heckingbottom had a team that was giving up a lot of goals and not scoring any. That's a bad combination if you're trying to stay in the Premier League. They bring back Chris Wilder. Wilder gets mad after a match, and he's now been fined £11,500 by the FA for his remarks about a sandwich-eating assistant ref. Offended when he spotted one of the ref's assistants eating a sandwich in question when he went to see him after the 3-2 loss at Crystal Palace last month. I don't know why you're allowed to see center refs. Just ask Matt Miazga. Wilder, who accepted the charge, branded the sight as a complete lack of respect and also called Harrington's performance ridiculous. In an interview with BBC Radio Sheffield after the match, FA said that he's been fined $11,500 for media comments, alleged that the manager's comments constitute improper conduct and that they imply bias and or attacking the integrity of the referee or referees generally and or bringing the game into disrepute. Chris Wilder accepted the charge, and an independent regulatory commission imposed his fine following a hearing. Here's what he said on Valentine's Day. Yet another ridiculous performance from the referee. Every 50-50 or tight decision goes against us. And if that's what we're going to have to deal with between now and the end of the season, we're going to deal with it. But I'm not just going to go under the radar and not say anything. I've been to see the referee, and I've told him that. One of his assistants was eating a sandwich at the time, which I thought was a complete lack of respect. Hopefully he enjoyed his sandwich while he was talking to a Premier League manager, end quote. So mouthing off like that got Chris Wilder a fine of $11,500. So you got that. So don't talk about refs and their sandwiches and their eating.
Well, what sandwich was it? Do we know?
No, we don't, sadly. We don't know what kind of a sandwich it was.
I just want to know, like, if it was like, a good sandwich.
Was it worth it? Or did you have to bring it from home? Tom, once again, MLS could have easily avoided this entire kerfuffle if they just expanded rosters and loosened up the rules. He's talking Open Cup. Yes. They could have even just done it for Open Cup only and allowed call-ups just for that. Really short-sighted. Garber is turning into a clown. That's from Tom. They could have. I mean, if you had opened up the roster rules, then we would, like I said, we talked about it with Glenn Davis about, teams sending in, Major League Soccer, sending in rosters with players that were mostly second team. And still, they couldn't get out of their own way. Glenn mentioned Houston and the match with the Tampa Bay Rowdies, where they couldn't get out of their own way. Young kid scores late. The Dynamo advance. Then you get another couple of those. And you're like, yeah, let's give this a shot. LAFC in Monterey Bay. They're like, no, we got schedule compression. We got stuff. We got Champions League. We're busy. So you send 8 starters from LAFC 2, and you go the extra 30 minutes, and you still beat Monterey Bay at Monterey Bay. There's a great atmosphere at Monterey Bay, but LAFC couldn't get out of their own way. If you just continued to do things in that manner and adjusted the rosters and adjusted the call-up structure, we'd all be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're just loud. We're loud at people.
Yes.
We are loud at folks and loud with one another.
Well, let's also talk about, too, that the U.S. women's national team beat the Dominican Republic 5-0 last night.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about that. What happened?
It was a lot of fun. It was great. It was great. It was a great game of soccer. I loved watching it. Obviously, something we didn't get the chance to talk about that was a huge issue was Mia Fischel tore her ACL in training.
Yep. She's going to be out, obviously, for this run and the Olympics. That's a big loss.
That's a huge loss for the U.S. women's national team, especially because she had such a bright start position as our new striker. Mm-hmm. So that obviously forced the call up for Alex Morgan to come back up into the call up into the roster for the Gold Cup. But I think, me and Bart talked about this too. She didn't make it on the roster. I like that we were getting this new talent. We were trying something new because you gotta do that. Mm-hmm. And then obviously it sucks. You never want a player like that, especially a player that's so young in her career, to have that. So sending all thoughts and prayers to her. Yes, Olivia Moultrie had a fun. Oh my goodness. What a performance by her. Oh,
Chelsea is not wrong
Oh my goodness. I literally, oh my goodness.
Mhm.
It was so fun getting to see the new players come in and really just like take charge. Like me and Bart talked about that, like you have, yes, like I like that, we have that talent that in the older players too, but the US women's national team isn't afraid to expand. They're grabbing other players. They're grabbing players from different leagues and they're giving them that opportunity to go. And oh,
Mhm.
oh, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yep, several first caps, some first goals, and yes, Olivia Moultrie is the scourge of the DR. So here's how it broke down. And remember, I know that it was weird to see Alex Morgan wearing a 7
Ah, yes.
because of CONCACAF rules. If you are a replacement player, you have to wear the original player's number. So that's them's the rules, as they say. So that's why
Mhm.
Alex Morgan was wearing number 7. So she converted a penalty kick in stoppage time, her 122nd international goal, and came in as a second half substitute. Also, Jenna Neiswanger on a PK in the 86th made it 4-0. Moultrie scored twice. Lynn Williams scored once, added a pass, a goal off a pass from Midge Person the 30th to make it 2-0 once again, their first match here in the calendar year. 3 groups of 4 teams in the tournament, matches in Carson, San Diego, and Houston. U.S. plays Argentina on Friday night in Carson at Dignity Health Sports Park, home of LAG. Becky Sauerbrunn also a late addition because Alana Cook sustained a minor knee injury. So Sauerbrunn got her 216th cap last night in the 5-0 win over the DR. And yes, Kefsey, Gotham players in general, bossing the women's game this side of the pond. And you know that Mexico and Argentina also in the group. We're actually, and we're also, as a matter of fact, since you mentioned the NWSL, Kefsey, we are catching up later this afternoon on our way to the event from 6 to 8 at Elsewhere. We are catching up with another one of the first round draft picks from the Washington Spirit that has ties here to the Atlanta area. You'll remember we caught up with Croy Bethune, and we caught up with her right after the draft, caught up with her in training camp. And so now, later today, and we'll release it tomorrow, we're going to catch up with her Concord Fire teammate, Hal Hirschfeld. And so Hirschfeld was the number 5 pick overall. Croy Bethune was the number 3 pick overall. So Hirschfeld, we're catching up with her. We're going to find out what camp was like for her, the number 5 pick overall from Clemson, midfielder, 5 seasons with the Tigers, 99 appearances, and starting in all but 2 matches, 4 all ACC honors during her collegiate career, all tournament team for her contributions to Clemson's run. And Hirschfeld and Bethune, once again, remember, they played at Concord Fire together. So we're going to catch up with Hal Hirschfeld, and that will be on the network tomorrow. And so set your notifications for that interview. Thanks once again to the Washington Spirit for letting us catch up with the 2 high draft picks that are going on. Folks sticking around, don't know. Probably Ropes as long as they can. As Ropes mentions what's going on at Elsewhere tonight. Once again, public service announcement. Elsewhere Brewing, the new greenhouse location, 950 West Marietta Street. From 6 to 8, we'll be there, thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente and thanks to Scott Flood and the Flood Project. So Sarah Kate Knopfsinger, Skate Knopfsinger, the VP and Chief Business Officer, is going to join us. We're going to talk to Skate about business and Atlanta United. So it'll be a fun conversation for our season kickoff when it comes to everything SDH. I would imagine folks are sticking around tonight, Ropes, to watch what's going on with Messi and Friends and RSL. But once again, 6 to 8 will be there. Show's starting a little into that 6 o'clock block, and then we'll catch up with Skate Knopfsinger, and it'll be a great conversation. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. I'm bringing the Marshall Islands scarves. So anybody wants a Marshall Islands scarf, you can pick it up from me at Elsewhere. We can figure it out on the spot, and you can take it home with you, and you can support the Marshall Islands. Okay, what to watch and where to watch it, other than Messi and Friends on Apple TV. So this is how we usually like to close up the day, let everybody know what's on, where it is, and where you can watch it. And days like today, as we get closer to Thursdays, when it's all Europa League and stuff, and you just watch Golasso Network and just watch the Golasso show, Napoli Barca's at 3 o'clock. That's on big CBS. So if you're a fan of CBS and you watch CBS News in your local market, you're not getting your 4 o'clock news. Your 5 o'clock news might be a little late. Napoli and Barca, 3 o'clock on big CBS. FS2 has the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. North of the border, Calvary hosting Orlando City, the purple team at 10 o'clock. Liverpool and Luton Towns at 2:30 on USA Network. ESPN Deportes Nightside has the CONCACAF W Gold Cup. Panama, Colombia, 7:30. Brazil and Puerto Rico at 10:15. TUDN has Independiente and the Revs at 8, and then followed by Calvary and Orlando at 10. Unimas, because of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, has the Liga MX match. America and Mazatlan, that's at 10 o'clock. Apple TV and MLS Season Pass has Messi and Friends at 8. EFL Trophy, the Gummy Bear Cup, Bradford City and Wickham at 3 on the plus. English FA Youth Quarters, Millwall and Chelsea at 2, plus the Gold Cup simulcast from 7:30 and 10:15. Golazo Network has Brazil and Puerto Rico at 10:15. Paramount Plus has already been very busy today with AFC Champions League with matchups at 4 and 6 a.m. Al Nain and Nassaf are going on right now. That just kicked off. Al Nasser and Al Fayhaz at 1. Paramount Plus has Napoli, Barca, Porto, and Arsenal, both at 3 o'clock. They've got Champions League at noon with Ghent and Maccabi Haifa. They've got the Gold Cup tonight. Tubi also has CONCACAF Champions Cup, Independiente and New England Reds at 8. VIX has Champions League with Arsenal and Porto at 3. Liga MX doubleheader at 8 and 10. Toluca, Santos, Laguna, Leon, and Cruz Azul. Man, that's a busy day. Once again, thanks to our friends out at DeKalb County and to Chamblee High School last night. Maddie, it was fun for both of those matches. I know it was a bit of a long night for the Chamblee Bulldogs, but it was fun to be out there in the weather to see the folks watching some teams that we're going to keep an eye on and we get to see early on in the season.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved both games. it was a lot of fun getting to see the talent that is here in Georgia, especially from that level. And it'll be very interesting to see how both those teams, move on ahead into the championship.
Yep. It was a 3-1 loss by Chamblee's girls, and they lost to Stars Mill last night. We'll be back at Stars Mill later on in our schedule for the McIntosh Stars Mill matchups in March. And then for the boys, Pope put up 5 on the Chamblee's boys, winning 5-1. The match itself, once both teams figured out, hey, let's just lob it long and have our speedy guys run underneath it, the game was a fun watch. It was back and forth for a lot of the second half. 2-0 at the break on 2 PKs by Pope, and then it was 3-0, but 2 goals within 23 seconds made it 3-1, and then 2 goals late in the second half by Pope made it 5-1 final. So that sets us up for the matchups on Friday. And for that, we are going to Johnson, Gainesville for the Whitfield County, Hall County Challenge doubleheader. And it's 2 matches. Maddie is going to call the first match at 5:30, and it will be Northwest Whitfield and East Hall. That'll give us a chance to take a peek at Northwest Whitfield because we're going to have Northwest Whitfield and one of the teams in the second matchup, Dalton, taking on Johnson Gainesville. Last year we had that game on the network, and it was a back-and-forth crazy match there at Johnson Gainesville. So Northwest Whitfield, East Hall, 5:30. 7:30, Dalton and Johnson Gainesville. Next Tuesday in Dalton, Northwest Whitfield and Dalton doubleheader. So we get a bit of a sneak preview on the boys' side with the Friday game of the week with the doubleheader up there at Johnson Gainesville. In Gainesville, looking forward to seeing everybody up there. The place will be packed. It will be loud. It will be crazy. It will be stupid. It will be nuts, and we're looking forward to it. But yeah, McIntosh and Stars Mill on the 28th of March will be down there as well as a part of our bonus. No Tuesday. It's not on a Tuesday or Friday. So bonus schedule, part of the bonus schedule is going to be McIntosh and Stars Mill on March 28th. Any other? Soleil, actually, get this, David. Soleil Washington is a manager this year. She is a manager / assistant coach this year. So she is hanging out on the sidelines, helping out Chamblee. Very, very young Chamblee team for Carly Miles. And so Soleil is watching and she's coaching and she's helping the younger players out before she heads to Florida State. And I would do the tomahawk chop, but my hands are full at the moment. So Soleil is managing and kind of like being an assistant coach this year. So very, very cool stuff to see Soleil helping out before she heads off to college. Maddie, anything else before we go?
MLS is back, and make sure y'all go out to see the live show tonight. If you are not able to, you can watch MLS is back, or if you really want to listen to me talk about something other than soccer, you can tune in to Kennesaw State, where they'll face off against Gardner-Webb for lacrosse.
Yeah, so she's got lacrosse tonight. The season kickoff will be on our social media channels, and so you can keep an eye on that. Keep an eye through StreamYard. It'll be up and running, but once again, 6 o'clock is when we'll be at the Elsewhere Brewing in the Greenhouse location. Skate Knopfsinger is going to be our special guest as our season kickoff kicks off, because that's what season kickoffs do. Because if they didn't kick off, that'd be a problem. Brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. So that's a show on a Wednesday. Traditionally, Wednesdays kind of fly because of all the stuff going on, and this one was no different. Thanks to Lucas Panzica, Nashville SC, 104.5 The Zone up in Nashville, giving us the preview of everyone in. And thanks to Tyler Pilgrim, Scarves and Spikes. He will be with us now every Wednesday after opening kickoff, 9:15-ish, to kind of talk things through as we go. Dylan Butler had daddy duty today because school was not in session. And so Dylan Butler had daddy duty, and we'll catch up hopefully with Dylan starting next week with MLS being back. So chaos reigns supreme, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Once again, tomorrow, Jason at 9:30, Nico Moreno live from Seattle at 10:30 to get you ready. We'll talk about Messi and friends. We'll talk about what happened, talk about anything else on your mind as we go. Craziness once again on a Thursday. So for Maddie, I'm John. We'll be back here in a little under 22 hours to do another go-round of soccer down here. Soccer's morning show at 9:05 Eastern time. Since it is the end of the show, Mucha Platiel, play it safe. That means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning.